One will always corrupt. Two will divide.
But 8 episodes, all hope will destroy. My Govanen, how are you in Sindarin? I'm the Talking Shed and I have seen the 8th episode of The Rings of Power. We have already discussed the part which concerns the hobbits and the Númenóreans, and now the time has come for the elves. There, in Eregion, with all our heroes, all the storylines should culminate and come to an end, should encourage us to see the second season, and should give us the most emotions. Well, this episode certainly culminates, but all that has been the worst of this production. Bad dialogue, nonsensical storylines, and complete disregard for the lore. Today, we'll answer the question, who is Sauron? How were the 3 rings forged? And who is responsible for Sauron's return? As always, spoilers ahead. So, we begin with Galadriel riding on a horse in a slow motion. We know that the show likes such a scene, so we get it for another time. And there is Halbrand behind her, basically dying. And soon they'll arrive in Eregion, and we'll learn that they have been on this journey for 6 days, and they've been riding without rest. So, no wonder that Halbrand is dying. This woman was clearly trying to kill him. How else to call this tiring journey through? It is almost similar to the journey that Frodo took. It was from Rivendell to Mordor, and here they come from Mordor to Eregion, which is very close to Rivendell. It's so long, and Halbrand was without rest, riding on a horse with this mortal wound that he needed elven medicine for. So, well, that he's still alive is a miracle. But, well, no more worries about him, because he will be soon fully healed, and so the tension is almost non-existent, because it was an artificial opportunity for him to get to Eregion. We'll speak about it more. Well, before even they arrive in Eregion, we see Elrond and Celebrimbor discussing how dire the situation is. The elves are going to all die, or they must leave Middle-earth, and there is no solution. Well, it is so sad to see it. It is so sad because we have seen what happens to the elves and how they are dying. It is so sad because we have seen the time limit that they have, and what gives them the feeling that they must leave before spring. And it is so sad because we have seen the many attempts to solve this problem. We have seen them sharing this last small shard of mithril among themselves, and trying to heal themselves from the scares that is among them. Wait, we have seen none of that. There is nothing of that would make us feel anything about this scene. there is nothing to bring emotion, to bring tension, to... We don't even see any elf dying or being sick or whatever. It's just said. All is just said, not shown. It should be the other way around. It should be all shown. And in the most necessary cases, there should be some dialogue to explain all of that. But if you're a writer and you present all this major conflict that constitutes the main storyline of this season, you cannot use only dialogue to present it. You have to show it, and this show does not do that. Well, we see finally Galadriel arriving, and she meets with Elrond. Halbrand is given and is under the care of medics, and she talks to Elrond. And Elrond asks a reasonable question: what is she doing here? But in the tradition of the show, we get an answer that is not an answer. It's a bizarre response. She asks what is he doing there in Eregion. So let us examine it. She, an elf that was to leave Middle-earth forever, suddenly appears in Eregion, and she asks an elf that stayed in Middle-earth what is he doing in an elven city. Where is the sense behind that? Well, in later dialogue they discuss the fact that Aaron says that he should never allow her to embark on this ship. It was a mistake. Well, of course, it was clear from the beginning, and there was no real reasonable reason for that happening. And Galadriel says that she didn't feel worthy of going to Valinor, and she had to finish up her task. But, well, don't let them fool you. She knew that what she was doing was a suicide. She had admitted that certain death awaited her on the sea, but she jumped off that ship anyway. Well, that's it. And we later see Halbrand, now fully healed. It was certainly not an artificial problem that would allow us to see him in Eregion and meet with Celebrimbor and be near this great elven project that allowed to forge great artifacts. None of that. It was all his wound that was so dire, and we were so afraid that we will never see him again. Well, now he talks to Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor shows him around, and Halbrand expresses his amazement. He says that he has heard of Celebrimbor and that he is his idol. He is the greatest smith that is alive. So, well, no wonder that he's admired. Well, and we see also... Well, first let's discuss the fact that the forge is now fully functional. It is yet another problem with the timeline of the show, because you certainly need at least months for it to work, but it was the show seems to be happening in 3 weeks at most. So that's unbelievable that it is now functional. But well, we see that in that forge there are prepared 3 gems that will be later used to forge the elven rings of power. And we see that there is this shard of mithril, and Halbrand asks what is it, and Celebrimbor says it is not enough. And Halbrand suggests that Celebrimbor makes an alloy. That and also that it is possible to make an alloy that would not diminish the unique qualities of mithril, but that would amplify it. So now we're supposed to believe that the greatest craftsman that is now alive, the greatest smith that the elves have, the smith that is admired by both elves and men, he hasn't thought about making an alloy of this mithril. The problem is that there is not enough mithril. Making an alloy is the first thing that a smith would think of. Why does Halbrand need to tell him that? It is just hilarious to hear that. It does not make sense. But well, now Celebrimbor seems amazed and wow, Halbrand, you're a genius, and all of that. And Halbrand answers, consider it a gift. So now basically we could call him the Lord of Gifts, in Elvish Annatar, or by his other name, Sauron. Yes, some people have already called him that, well, weeks earlier. I wasn't certain. When I saw it for the first time, when he said that, I was sure he is Sauron. He is the supposed villain of the show. But well, that is a later discussion. And now we see a council. There is Gil-galad, Elrond, Celebrimbor, Galadriel, Sauron, and they all discuss that there is no time left. Gil-galad says we must leave, and but Celebrimbor presents a new idea, a way to, well, solve the problem, which is making a crown for Gil-galad of an alloy, of which a mithril will be a part. So I know it's all fine, making a crown of mithril. It's certainly something that a smith would like to do, but how does making a crown help the elven problem? The problem with all elves dying? It does not make exactly great amounts of mithril or of an alloy that would contain mithril. It is just a crown. What does forging it achieve? Well, there is an attempt to explain what will it do, but well, decide for yourselves. Do you consider it helpful? Listen for yourselves.
Why a crown? A circular form will be ideal, allowing the light to arc back upon itself in one unbroken round, building to a power that is all but unbounded.
So, well, there is that. And unfortunately, it's the only reason, the only explanation we get for the power of the said crown and later the power of the rings. There is nothing more. And that's a problem. These are to be the greatest artifacts of all Middle Earth, save the One Ring, which is made arguably in the same way. And the only thing that makes them so powerful is being round and, well, maybe being made of mithril. That's too. That's not enough information. We need so much more to explain the great power of the rings, but we get nothing more. Well, but the show treats it as it's some kind of a great explanation, great power, and that's always clear now. And Gil-galad says that it would be dangerous to give such power of this crown to one person. And again, what is the power they are discussing? It seems that they discuss only the power to heal the elves, so what would be the danger in that? And well, they say that this crown will be given to Gil-galad, so no fear. But Gil-galad still does not agree. He says that, and that's the only indication of the timeline we get, that the tree in Lindon is falling leaves, and when all the leaves will fall down, all elves will die. How does he know that? Well, call me crazy, but I think it would require to let all the leaves fall down to be sure that all the elves will die when it happens. What else? What's a different reason could you have to believe that? Well, it is the only thing again that we get. And well, we have no answer to some questions that come to mind when we hear that. The first one would be, have they tried healing the tree with mithril that they have? Because the statement that the king gives suggests that all the problems come from the fact that the tree is dying. And you have the means to heal it. We have seen how easily can mithril heal a leaf from that tree. It didn't even need to be touched to touch the leaf. It needed to be near it, and it was healed completely. So have they at least tried to touch the tree with mithril? You have to show us why it didn't work and why there needs to be another solution, because it's so unclear. It's, well, I don't know if they have thought about it, and it would be so strange. It's a first solution you would think about when you discuss the problem, but it is never mentioned. It is just stated the tree is dying, all elves are dying, and there is no solution. When you have a solution, it's so strange. But well, I'm getting used to that. So well, there is this later discussion, and Celebrimbor announces that the king must give them more time, that they are near some new discovery to gain a power not of the flesh but over the flesh. Well, it is now clear that these are the words of Sauron, and that Halbrand is Sauron. Other use that words to describe the experiments that Sauron was making. So, well, now we can be sure that soon Halbrand will have only 4 fingers on one of his hands. And, if someone didn't already realized what we are talking about, Celebrimbor adds that it is the power of the unseen world. What is this unseen world, and what power can it give, and what does it have to do with the Rings of Power and Sauron's experiments? We never learn. It is just a name that we get, and we're supposed to, take something from that, but we are never explained what does it mean. So this another weak point. But Gil-galad cannot be convinced. He says that all elves must leave, and that they should go to Lindon. Eregion is to be abandoned. We see then Galadriel talking to Celebrimbor and asking him where did he hear the words about this power over the flesh and of the unseen world, and he answers that he does not remember. He thinks that they are his words. Of course, it is Halbrand. Galadriel also suspects that. And later we see Elrond talking to Gil-galad and asking him to grant them more time. At first, Elrond says that he's owed that much to give him some time, and the king rightly answers that he is owed nothing, and Elrond does not mention that again, which is strange. Why would he think that the king would grant him something that he has no right to? That he says that he's owed something, but he's not. It's just there and never mentioned again. It's so strange. And then Elrond says that, if I am not owed nothing, so at least give me this out of favor. Give me a favor and grant me some more time. And Gil-galad says, it is just a hope, it is a mere hope. But Elrond response is the king's words that he has spoken some episodes before, that the hope is never mere, even if it's meager. So the king grants them some more time. And then we see Galadriel talking to a lore master whom she asks to bring her the manuscripts with the royal lines of the Southlands. And let's discuss the fact that it's a bit too late for that. She has already made Halbrand the king of the Southlands. So, there was time for that in Númenor, but she had only thought about that now. That's a major plot hole. You shouldn't give the power of the king to someone that could not be the king. It's as simple as that, but seemingly it's enough to have a pendant and you can become a king. Well, there is more to that. In just a while we'll talk about it. But now we see that in this great forge there is an explosion. And it seems that Mithril does not want to be merged with other metals. And Galadriel says, perhaps we have pushed ourselves too hard. And that gives Halbrand an idea. And he says that we've been pushing the Mithril too hard. We must be more gentle. And what does that even mean? If they've been trying to make an alloy, there is, I believe, one way. You melt Mithril and other metals. Why would an explosion occur? I don't know. And how can you do that more gently? I do not know. But the solution to this artificial problem is to be more gentle. So they do that. Great. Fantastic. Well, and now Galadriel receives the manuscript with the royal line of the Southlands. And then she confronts Halbrand and asks him who he is. And she announces that the royal line of the Southlands has been broken for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years! That's a hell of a time. It's enough for an elf, even for an elf to notice. That's for certain. But there are so many questions that come when you have this matter. With this matter, first of all, this means that the elves have been occupying the Southlands for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years. It's again a hell of a time. It's so many generations. These people of the Southlands would have certainly forgotten about their past and their ancestors that have sided with Morgoth if the elves have not been occupying their lands. It's 1,000 years is too much. Elves do hold a grudge against them, that's for certain. Well, but let's discuss the other elements. First of all, Galadriel should have known about the fact that there was no king of the Southlands. Why, you ask? In Numenor, she gathered the information about the pendant that was the king's pendant. And shouldn't there be also an information that this line is broken? This line that you're looking for. Numenorians are said in the show to have colonies in the Middle-earth near the Southlands. So they would certainly know that there is no king. That's basic information about the neighboring country. But Galadriel just found information about the pendant and nothing more. How convenient. And there is even better opportunity to discover the truth in the Southlands. She and Halbrand and Numenorians meet the Southlanders. They should know that they have no king. It's been so long. They should be aware that the royal line is broken. And not even one person mentions that. Nobody seems to know. Well, if anyone have mentioned that the storyline would be over, but of course there was nothing of that sort. So we could finally get this confrontation. Well, let's confront the confrontation. Halbrand tells Galadriel that he never said that he was the king of the Southlands, which is true. He says that he told her that he found the pendant on a dead man, which is true. And he tells her that it was all her doing, that she pushed him to go to Middle-earth. He wanted to stay in Numenor, which is true. But Galadriel asks him about his real name, and he decides to reveal it. Well, he could still pretend that he is not Sauron. It would not be so easy, but still possible. But he decides to reveal himself, and he says that he has been awake since the breaking of the first silence, that he is immortal, that he is Sauron. And, well, hearing that, Galadriel attacks him, but he easily stops her, and she lands in some sort of a vision. She is, it would seem, in Valinor. There is Finrod, her brother, and they talk, and Finrod tells her that Sauron is not evil, that he wanted to heal Middle-earth, that he sought the power to heal it. And that's the moment when she realizes that's Sauron speaking through Finrod's mouth, and then the vision changes, and she and Halbrand Sauron are again on the raft where they met. And there they talk, and Halbrand Sauron tells her that he's not evil, that he was under some sort of spell, under the power of Morgoth, but when Morgoth was defeated, he was finally free, and now he wants to heal Middle-earth. And basically he proposes to her there. He tells her that she will achieve great power with him, and that she will be the queen, he will be the king, that she will be fairer than the sea or the sun, that she will be stronger than the foundations of the earth. It's a direct line, the line stolen from The Lord of the Rings and used in a different context, which is again a theme in this show. And, well, we hear Sauron telling Galadriel that, well, while he will give her power, she will bind him to the light. That together they will rule and they will be good. Galadriel's answer is that they will not save Middle-earth but rule it, and Halbrand answers that he sees no difference. Well, there is you could argue that he's in some right, because, well, in order to bring salvation, you need to rule, to have some kind of power. So it is not entirely evil thing to say, but it seems that it pushes Galadriel away, and that she refuses his offer. And well, it must be stated that all these lines are delivered in this uncomfortable way, where there is this close-up on their faces, and it's so uncomfortable to watch it. And later these two characters begin to shout at each other like children, you could achieve tension and emotions without being so infantile and presenting the characters like that. You could have still characters, restrained, and show the emotions through this more composed lines and posture, but here they are just screaming at each other, and Galadriel threatens to kill him. He tells her that she will now be aware that she saved his life, and it will taunt her forever, and so on. And then Galadriel is struck by lightning, and she begins to drown. So it would seem that Halbrand has the power to control her mind, to control what she sees, to teleport her, and to make her drown. Or not, because she is saved now. Well, she wakes up, she is in a creek, and there is Elrond helps her to get out. And, she immediately asks him about something to confirm his identity, forgetting that 2 minutes ago Sauron used her own memories to bring a living image of her brother, and in a setting that he certainly got from her memories, because there was no other way. So he could easily make an image of Elrond to, deceive her more, but it is not the case. His words seem to prove to her that he is Elrond. So, does she tell him about the whole thing? No. She just goes to Celebrimbor. That is said. Elrond says that Celebrimbor is now finishing the project. The same project that 10 minutes ago exploded in Celebrimbor's face. That's they just got new ideas, and the project that needed this 3 months that Elrond requested, it's finished. Well, so Galadriel goes there, and she tells nobody about what happened. Nobody. Not that she just waits for everybody to gather and to tell them the news. She tells no one. The Dark Lord has returned in the image of a simple man who wants to help to craft some artifacts, and nobody knows about it. So then Galadriel, being asked what to do with the rings, she tells that Halbrand was not what he claimed, who he claimed to be, and he will probably never return, and that's it. And then asked about the rings, the 2 rings that were to be crafted. Well, it was maybe I've missed it, but at some point Halbrand told Galadriel that there will be not a crown crafted, but 2 rings, and now asked what to do with them. Galadriel says that they'll make 3 of them. Why? It seems to be the worst idea of all. It was the plan of the Dark Lord of Sauron to make these rings. It is obvious at this point. He arrived at Eregion. He deceived Celebrimbor. He gave him ideas about the unseen world. Now his ideas helped creating the rings. It was his plan all along. And now she wants to pursue this plan still. But, she does not say to make 2 rings, but 3 now. But fortunately, she gives a fully reasonable case. She explains to us why make free. Of course not. In the great tradition of this show, we get out of nowhere this explanation. She says, one will corrupt, two will divide, and Celebrimbor finishes as if it is some saying that is popular, but with free there is balance. Why? What does it mean? What other context would you use this saying for? And what can we get from that? Is there any meaning? Why free? Why would it be necessary to make free? Well, we could call it why the show, because there's so many questions that begin with why. And there is as many blank spaces when we require this answer for these questions. There's no answer. They will just make free. Accept it. Do not ask. So, yes, they make free. But in order to make these rings, you need some gold and silver from Valinor, and oh no, how will we get that? Oh, Galadriel's knife has this gold and silver from Valinor, so we will use it. Yeah, so Galadriel gives her dagger, and it melts. Music plays like it's someone's funeral, like it's a great sacrifice, but there is nothing really meaningful there. And they make the rings. Mithril is added, and the rings are forged. And it was all the same alloy, but suddenly one ring is silver and two other are golden. Why? But the question is left unanswered. And that's it. Oh yes, we get also Sauron arriving in Mordor, which changed in this few days from being a lively land now with an eruption to this dark abyss of no life and darkness. Yes. And that's it. Fortunately, that's it. Finally, that's it. The end. The end. The plot might be over, but the problems seem to be unending. Let's discuss the world building, with the first issue being what was Sauron's plan. He is, we are supposed, I think, to consider him the villain, the Dark Lord. But if he wanted to gain power, what was his plan? We found him on the sea, just by chance meeting Galadriel, and then getting to Numenor, and not wanting to go to Middle-earth, and there becoming the king, and by so lucky chance became wounded, and then coming to Eregion and suddenly deciding to create the Rings of Power and advising Celebrimbor in their making, and then tempting Galadriel. It's so unclear what he wanted to achieve. I have no answers. I have to consider it more. But for certain, I'll discuss it in some later videos. Well, in the world building, we also see that the forge, which was being built for a long time, is now finished. And well, this great project was not used, or was used, but it's not a great project, because in forging of the rings of power there was a small furnace, a size of a cupboard, regular cupboard, nothing special. So yeah, that was used for the rings of power. Of course, the fact that the rings are created is the main one, and we have to note that in the show called The Rings of Power, the forging, creating of the Rings of Power took 5 minutes. So yes, that was underwhelming. And well, we also learned that the kings of the Southlands have been dead for 1,000 years, and nobody noticed, nobody cared. Yeah, so these are the main issues of world building. There wasn't much more in that matter, in that regard. So let's jump to characters. I've mentioned Sauron, Halbrand. He's been hiding his identity, now he revealed it. And well, he seems to have some feelings towards Galadriel. And well, I don't know where it is going. He is well, I'm more convinced by Galadriel on which side she is, because she is the villain. She is more villainous than Sauron. It was her that threatened to kill an entire race, not Sauron. And Sauron seems to be, well, trying at least to be good, or he is lying that he's doing so, but we do not see something especially evil coming from him. His only desire is to have power. It is the same desire that Galadriel has, at least according to the books. And well, here in this show also, but it is even, well, more villainous again. So Sauron, somewhat enigmatic and not straight up evil also, but well, not also good. Probably he will become this Dark Lord, but who knows? The show might go anywhere, and it wouldn't be a great surprise for me. So with Galadriel, she was tempted by the offer of Sauron, but she finally rejected it. And yeah, nothing more, still the same. We learn nothing new, probably. She rejects the offer of the Dark Lord. That's it here. And well, one more character, Celebrimbor, the greatest craftsmith that is now in Middle Earth. He knows nothing about forging the rings, it would seem, because all the ideas come from Halbrand Sauron, and Celebrimbor has nothing to say almost. And yeah, so we have nothing to assume that he is the greatest craftsman, except for the show telling us on every step of the way. and not showing that. So that's the characters of this episode. In terms of being faithful to the source material, I have only 2 observations. But by no means are they not meaningful, because they concern the rings of power which are in the name of the show. So, by definition, it is a serious matter. And, well, how much further can you be from the source material? First of all, the 3 rings that we see created were the last to be created. At first there were 7 for the dwarves and the 9 for the men. And the elven rings were wrought, in the end. And, the second issue is that Sauron had nothing to do with them. It was the point of the elven rings, that Sauron has not touched them, was not involved in their making. And here, he basically made them. It was his project, it was his ideas that made it possible that, they were created. And it's so detrimental for the show. And the issue is also that this should be the only rings that he will be involved with, because who would let him help the elves create the other ones? Why would anybody allow him now? These are the rings he was involved, and probably, if we follow logic, which, that's a high bar set for the creators of the show, I would say. So if we followed logic, he wouldn't be involved in the making of the other ones. So that's, again, another complete disregard for the lore, for all that made the rings in the original story. And that's how it looks like. There is also a matter of the rings having no real source of power. It's only mithril that gives them power, nothing more, and being around, seemingly. No, these were magical rings, so probably you should use some magic by one making them, but no, they are just forged. Just an observation, but the dwarves now should have countless powerful rings, more powerful than the elven ones, because they have so much mithril. They do not need to make an alloy, and they could just forge rings from mithril. And now, by the logic of the show, such rings would be more powerful than the 3 that were made. What we see. And what would stop the elves from making the other ones? There is nothing that would justify such turn of events, but, of course, we will not get anything to explain that. So let's move now to the final conclusions. in a sense, the ending is suitable for the whole show. In the ending, we get the culmination of the issues with the show. The dialogue that does not make sense, the plot points, the events, the decisions that are not explained by anything. That just happen because someone needs it to happen to make the story that they want, and does not consider the consequences. We see also basically spitting on the lore, not thinking about the source material, claiming the name and using only the names of the characters, and well, trying to pretend that it is the same like the original, and it is not. Well, that's the end of the discussion about particular episodes, but that's not the end of the discussion about the show. Soon, on this channel, the discussion of the whole season will appear. We'll look at all the storylines now finished and discuss them. And that's not all. I plan on making 2 different series. The first one will look even closer on the most impactful and the most detrimental storylines. And the second one is the one that I have much hope for. I will have much joy making it. It will be a series when I will try to, make the story better, to find a way to somewhat repair what was made in the Rings of Power. It will be announced soon, the names and maybe some more details. And I hope to see you there very soon. Fare you well. Nowy year.
Subscribe right now, you little hobbitses.